I have rarely felt as miserable finishing a piece of fiction as I did with Please Knock on My Door. This 2-hour-long game with barely any plot left me with an isolation so deep it persisted through its ending. Because even simple social tasks are an achievement in this game. And through my playtime, this conditioning was ingrained into me so deep that going downstairs for dinner and having to talk to my parents seemed terrifying. The game had taught me to fear actions which were supposed to be ordinary. It had trapped me in the self-destructive thinking of its main character. It took me some minutes to recover, and a while longer to realize how it exactly did this. Its gameplay consists of you trying to get your character through 2 weeks of their life. With their depression and anxiety, you are subject to their deepest insecurity, their thoughts counting for most of the dialogue in the game. And while this mindset is written very well, I actually think that most important to this immersion are these two numbers. They represent your character's mental fortitude, which upon launch is already too low for our character to call their dad. These numbers respond to your actions. Escape into some games, and the left number, representing your immediate mood, will go up. The right number, however, will go down, and as you go to sleep, it will tick down your mood with it. If you force yourself to face a difficult memory, the opposite happens. You are tasked to live your character's life under the surveillance of these numbers. Every shower you take and every thought you think having an immediate consequence on its course. For however hard you will try, the combination of these consequences will most likely be a downwards trend. By the end of the 2 weeks, your low mental fortitude will probably be restricting any social interactions, or even the ability to wash the dishes. It seems a bit reductive, really. The grand complexity of the human mind compressed into 2 simple numbers. In fact, the game seems to agree, because upon starting, there is actually 3 modes to choose from. The game, which is what I've just described, the story, a mode which removes all the restrictions and just leads to the good ending, and the experience. This mode hides the numbers from you, and it is perhaps the clearest argument in favor of them. Without the numbers, you are left in the dark about how your character is doing, and suddenly you wake up one day and the motivation to leave for work isn't there. It is more honest to reality, where you also don't have a convenient way to know which actions affect you in what ways. But at the end of the day, playing a video game isn't like having depression. While the game is based off Michael Laval's lived experience, playing it, you have the advantage of being able to turn it off. This video comes with that same advantage. While discussing these games, I will also be talking about mental illness and all the heavy stuff that comes with it. So, if you're not in the mood or want to play any of these games before I spoil them in this video, you know what to do. With the ability to turn it off, the 2 hours of the experience mode don't reach the same oppression that the numbers do. It creates this disconnect between you and the character, as they aren't a blank slate for you to project onto, yet the experience gives you too little to get fully immersed into their mindset. The numbers solve this by being a simple, measurable way to know how your character is doing, which show that every single action you take has an effect on them. Going to sleep with a -7 on the counter makes you feel like you had a bad day, in a way that the experience mode never matches. And while you start to spiral downwards, you'll feel like everything you do is wrong. With every tick of the number, the fear that it will tick down further makes you scared to do anything at all. You might hold off on asking for help on a project, the fear of embarrassing yourself and worsening your mood, overpowering any natural behavior. It's a peculiar feeling for a game to give you. Instead of fearing a big final boss, you were taught to fear a number ticking down. Instead of a hero on a grand adventure, Please Knock on My Door and its predecessor Depression Quest make you inhabit someone struggling to live even an ordinary life. This subversion is the point of Depression Quest. A text-based game, its only gameplay is at the bottom of each page, where you make a choice in the life of your character. Unlike Knock on My Door, it's pretty clear what the best choice is. It's here at the top, the choice to enthusiastically go to a party, or to open up to one of your friends. They are also crossed out in red, impossible to actually pick. Your character is already deeply depressed, their exhaustion and lack of motivation described in detail through the prose. And depending on your actions, it can get much worse. But overall, Depression Quest is a bit easier than Knock on My Door. If you pick the second option, and maybe the third here or there, your mental health will visibly improve. You can reach out to a therapist, confide in a friend and or brother, and eventually even open up to your girlfriend. But there's almost always a preferred choice in red. For however much the choices you do make matter, the choices which you can't make hang over the game with this unbearable weight. Your character beats themselves up for being lazy, a sentiment her mother echoes when you try to tell her how you feel. It's a feeling the game expertly emulates. Where Knock on My Door makes you feel like you can't do anything right, Depression Quest makes you feel like you should do better. These stories only work because they are games. Instead of the distance created by a book or film, the consequence lies with you, instead of just a person in the story. Your actions are being restricted. These games show you an ordinary world and make it nearly impossible to reach. But some illnesses go beyond restricting how you move through the world. They change what the world is. Milk Inside a Bag of Milk Inside a Bag of Milk is a short visual novel where you accompany a girl tasked to buy a bag of milk. And unlike the clinical clarity at the start of the previous games, milk gives you nothing. You are dropped within the mind of the girl with a simple prompt. Help me buy milk. You join the girl as she's rehearsing her speech for at the store. The world a dithered red, the practice necessary because she hasn't been out in years. And as the prompt suggests, you are not playing as the girl. Rather, as she explains, she imagines herself as the main character of a visual novel, the idea of her thoughts showing on a screen, helping her to keep them in check. This is a video game, not because you wanted it to be, but because the character itself needs it to be. You, in turn, play both as the reader and her new medication-induced inner voice, talking to her while you traverse through this distorted world. Your goal is to help her function, by keeping her focused and calm. The girl sees the people at the store like birds and snakes, who repeat the horrors of the letter O or take 2 entire days to check the money she uses to pay. Something which you need to remind her to do. The simple act of going to the store is a Herculean effort, not because of any motivational reasons, but because the skies are painted red, a filter of blood which has clouded her vision ever since her father jumped out of their apartment window. Her problems aren't fixed by the end of the game. They are impossible to fix. Her world operates on their different rules. If you try to do so anyway, try to force her to see reality for what it is, you overwhelm her and the game resets. This is something she has to live with, a rule of her world enforced by the game itself. All you can do is help her navigate this reality. But as you successfully return from the store with a bag of milk, the girl asks to talk to you as the reader. This isn't a fourth wall break. The girl recognizes you are part of her imagination. Yet she attempts to converse with you. She knows she is going crazy. Her medication is working less and less, but she'd rather not tell her diagnosis. If anyone, you could see her for who she is. Her entire life has been blemished by her illnesses, by people seeing her as nothing else but her illnesses. So you become an anchor for the girl, a way for her to finally feel like she fits in. Because even though she knows you are a figment of her imagination, she still sees you as an outsider, free from the horrors of her mind. But not all games allow this distance to their characters' minds. Hazy Mind places you inside of the character's head without a grain of comfort. It opens with a failed overdose of a girl, a vivid description of the ice cold pills in her hand, the slow fading of her consciousness, and her life replaying before her eyes. Before she's jolted awake without any recognition of the room she's in. She has lost her memory, even the sensation of breathing feeling new and alien. But where Milk Girl had you inside her mind for comfort, Hazy Girl has Morana. Supposedly hired by the girl's mother, Morana is here to help the girl with her confusion, as it is not the first time she has woken up with amnesia. You can ask her questions, and she acts as a general guide to find out who you are. But just as Milk Girl makes up a reader, Morana too is a hallucination, created for the girl's comfort. However, made from the girl's mind, Morana also carries the girl's self-hatred. It consumes even the comfort she hallucinates, as Morana berates the girl for not realizing she is a hallucination. The girl's illnesses are inescapable. The story she writes in her diary about a life with friends and a partner is a fantasy. But even in this pretend story, the girl eventually develops schizophrenia. In fantasy, she can't escape reality, and reality has become inseparable from fantasy. After Morana finishes her rant, you're left all alone in the hell of the girl's mind. It greets you in the roam over, where you find the corpse of her mother. It has been decomposing there for an entire week, as told by a floating skull. The girl had killed her during a conflict, after getting increasingly angry at her mother calling her a wretch, until she tried to throw a vase at her head. For however clearly the narrator is a hallucination, it seems to know 1,000,001 details to make the story feel real. About how the first attack missed, about her mother coughing up blood, and a small hesitation before the girl stabbed her 28 times. You know she is schizophrenic, that she hallucinates, and you want this story to be a lie, the smell to be hallucination, her mother to actually be at work. But there is no answer. You are stuck in this nightmare with the girl, helpless to figure out the truth, where every action seems to be a bad one. It is, as revealed in one of the endings, a nightmare with no base in reality. The girl, like most people who suffer from these illnesses, doesn't want to do any harm, and the entire scenario was fiction. It's a singular nightmare, of which the girl suffers many throughout her days, with no way of knowing what is real and what is fake. But what if you don't know that fake exists? Without a Dawn is a world without relief. You play as a woman who is trying to rediscover herself by retreating to a cabin in the woods. You join her as she's failing to fall asleep, unnerved by the idea that someone might be standing outside her window. And however much you try to rationalize that there's probably no one there, however many times you click the option to ignore the thought, you can't resist giving the window a little peek. It's a familiar line of thinking, one that you and I have probably gone through as well. It quickly turns into an attempt to relax, as you realize no one is outside the window. But these thoughts keep nagging. They seek hidden meaning behind your weird dream. They make you check the window again, and when you see a shadow in the mist, they pull you back to reality. They observe your accelerated breathing, the growing numbness in your legs, and run you through the typical panic attack groundings until you return to a sense of calm and the figure in the mist is gone. These thoughts aren't malicious. They just exist in their incredibly persuasive form, finding patterns in every little coincidence. So as you once again fall into a similar weird dream and the man in the gas mask tells you to check the bird box, you might well already be outside. But where the previous oddities held a spot for possible denial, checking the bird box will lead you to your phone. You hold it in your hand and you feel its buttons, its screen turns on. It most definitely is your phone. You don't remember putting it there though, and as you try to rationalize any other possibility, you realize you have no idea when you got here, or where you even are. You have a hole in your memory, with nothing there to fill it but the stories told in your dreams. So, when the man once again returns in your sleep and reveals himself within a picture on your phone, your rationalization only points you towards the photo's location. He will reveal the truth of this world, let you peek behind a veil. But just before walking up the stairs, our character wonders if these could be the first steps to psychosis. Or maybe even the last. And depending on how hard you are thinking while playing this game, this might be the first time you even consider this possibility. Where the numbers in Knock on My Door filled a void, this emptiness is exactly what Without a Dawn wants. The logical and familiar sense of our character's mind might have put you at ease. The insidious, inevitable crawl towards her final steps only hitting you at the moment she takes them. Or perhaps you realized earlier, as the phone's time was frozen, or in a general distrust towards dream people. Perhaps watching this video was the first time you've heard of this game, and the entire time felt like an unstoppable slide towards doom. The logic that was supposed to keep her grounded was built on a conviction that she could trust the world for what it was, trust her perception of it to match reality. It's an unimaginable idea that it doesn't. A divergence that makes you other in this world. The girl from Hazy Mind has never learned to socialize. Bullied as a child, her only experience with connection comes from the fiction she consumes. Her own fiction is consumed by this need. A robot who learns what feelings and connections are. A story about true love, how it can't be manufactured, but has to be found and nurtured into the world. And a story about a girl who is loved despite her terminal illness. They are dreams of lives she feels are impossible for her to live. This is why she invents Marana, It's why Milk Girl invents the player. Their failure to socialize only pushes them further into their own realities, further away from everyday society. In Milk Girl's quest to the store, she needs you to function. But as she arrives back home, alone in her room, she needs you to exist. In the sequel, Milk Outside a Bag of Milk, the girl takes another dose of her medication. Her fear of being alone, of the hallucinations which will grow from the silence, makes the pills look like company. Because besides these figments of imagination, there is no one. And it feels like an impossibility for there to be someone. Please Knock on My Door places that possibility just out of reach. Everything in this game is a reminder of our characters' withdrawal from society. Their empty house, with the chat button grayed out on their computer and the mental state they call their dad seemingly unreachable. The little notes left by their co-workers, to which they never seem to be able to reach out. And the very thoughts that keep them from reaching out. They create this vicious cycle, trying to find any indication that their friends hate them, that they are a burden to them, which only deepens the pit of their isolation. Progress feels impossible and social interactions pointless. It is a tragedy hiding in Without a Dawn. A woman plagued by a world she doesn't understand feels like she is losing her mind, feels like it is unexplainable to the people around her. Fueled by anxiety and depression, the worried whispers of her friends make her feel like a problem to them, make her feel like she has to hide her illness as to not lose connection. So she decides to fix it all on her own. And in this empty room within the silence of the forest, a location she thinks was her own choice, she is separated from the people she so desperately needs. The people that all of these characters need. Depression Quest is a game about living with depression. But unlike the empty rooms of Knock on My Door, our character is not alone. They have a few close friends both online and in real life, their mom and brother, and a loving girlfriend called Alex. They haven't told Alex about their problems though. They haven't told anyone about the times they can't get out of bed. But when their old friend Amanda invites them to a cafe, she quickly notices their low mood and shaking hands. So she literally reaches in, gently placing a hand on theirs and asking what's wrong. It's a simple gesture, but set against the overwhelming pressure of reaching out, it makes that first step just a bit easier. And beyond searching for help, it relieves some of the pressure of being social. When the logic of your mind is constantly looking for reasons why your friends secretly hate you, even a simple message about how you're up late is evidence that people care, that there is a place for you in society. The girl from Hazy Mind invents Morana, because there's no one else to understand. But she brings only a fleeting comfort. Morana's love is capped by the girl's hatred for herself. Hatred for their inability to properly function in this world. In Please Knock on My Door, our character is unable to get out of bed for work. They make things worse anyway. How could anyone enjoy their company? They can't even respond to a friendly message. There is a conviction that their illness makes them impossible to put up with. For Milk Girl, even a simple task like going to the store is an immense effort. She feels like a burden to her mother. Her dad killed himself. How could you not feel like you are undeserving of love. On one particularly sleepless night, the guilt of silence becomes too much for our character. Her depression has become a secret to Alex. So, as they accidentally wake her up, the option, opened up with ease, crossed out. They decide to tell her about everything. They tell themselves she'll leave them. Now that she knows the real them, she wouldn't want to deal with all that trouble.
So, how can I help? What do you need me to do?
I wish I knew how to fix this, but I don't know that you can do anything. I think it's something I just have to live with.
Then I'll live with it with you.
I don't know how you could possibly love me.
You don't need to. Just know that I do.